Hello, 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 everyone. For the first time in about 2 years, I've been able to go to the New York Film Festival. I saw many great films. Some of them I'm going to review individually, and the rest of them I'm going to review all in one video. And I just wanted to share them with you because some of them are opening in theaters now, some of them are coming out in theaters in a couple of weeks, and some of them are coming out in theaters by December into the new year, so I wanted to make sure that you guys knew exactly how I felt about these movies. First up is Nickel Boys, which is the first narrative feature by photographer and documentarian Ramell Ross, which is an adaptation of the same name by Colson Whitehead, who also wrote The Underground Railroad, which was adapted into a miniseries by Barry Jenkins. Nickel Boys was selected as the opening night selection of the festival, which is kind of a big deal. It's supposed to function as the tone setter for the festival, and also it's just supposed to be really good. And what you're seeing right now are films that have previously been the opening night selection, so Nickel Boys is in pretty good company. It tells the story of two men who have been forcibly detained in a Floridian reform school in the 1960s. A reform school in the Jim Crow South is just fancy talk for a plantation. The reform school in the film is supposed to be based on places like the Dozier Reform School in Florida. What makes this film unique is that the film is presented entirely in the first person. We jump perspectives between the two characters, but we never see them in a scene from a more traditional third-person POV like you would see in other movies, which is an aesthetic undertaking that can trap you in corners directorially, because if only one of those characters is in the scene, you just have to pace it well, or rely on jump cuts, and hope that these jumps are motivated. Or if none of those things work, then you have to consider whether or not you're going to cut the scene entirely or cut the scene prematurely. Another way this film challenges the audience is how quiet and understated it is. There's an original score, but it mostly serves the purpose of tone setting between sequences, and not like other films where the music won't stop. It's definitely there, but it's not the thing that I'm thinking about the most walking out of it. If the aesthetic of Nickel Boys could be distilled in one word, that word would be meditative. It really takes its time to get its ideas across through compositions, like making comparisons to laying under an orange tree, sharing a fruit under its branches, to looking up at your grandmother decorating a Christmas tree and sharing a laugh. Mostly every scene in the film is so well thought out, with mind-blowing shots like the one from the poster, which is a mirror shot that turns into a tracking mirror shot, and the many stunning transitions. I really felt like I was in good hands when I was watching this. The first 10 to 15 minutes are just so arresting. I was like, well, I'm here. Show me what you got. I'm ready. But there are some moments that could have used either another take or just could have been rethought entirely. The first that comes to mind is the bar scene where Daveed Diggs is in the center of the frame with his back turned toward the camera on a body rig like the ones you've seen in Requiem for a Dream. He's having a conversation with someone that was probably 5 minutes long with no cuts, and given how static it was and the fact that the only face we see was smashed into the right side of the frame, that 5 minutes felt like an eternity. It probably wasn't even 5 minutes. It was probably 3 minutes, but it felt so long. And when you're watching a film, time is relative. You could watch a really long film and it feel like 90 minutes, or you could watch a 90-minute film and it feel like 3 hours. And that happens maybe a couple of times in the film, but there are also scenes where abuse would be depicted or our characters would reach a low point, and the film almost always cuts to black. I think it's fine if you do that maybe 1 or 2 times, but it was used so often, I felt like there were missed opportunities for creative transitions like the ones that already exist in the film. These are minor grievances, but grievances nonetheless. Anjanou Ellis-Taylor gives another thankless performance, and hopefully she'll be given her due for this. Our two leads, played by Ethan Harris and Brandon Wilson, are serviceable, but we only see them when they're both in the same scene together, so it's hard to really judge their impact. The aforementioned Daveed Diggs, who you know from Hamilton, Blind Spotting, and a part of the experimental hip-hop group Clipping. I doubt any of you listen to Clipping, but he does a lot of back acting in this film, which is really brave, because usually when you're acting in a film, you'd want your face to be seen, or at least in the case of Tom Hardy in The Dark Knight Rises, sizes, you'd want your eyes to be seen, or your giant pecs and your giant arms and your giant back, you know? But it's just Daveed Diggs' back and the back of his head for like maybe 99% of his time on screen. But his impact on the film is no lesser for it. Nickel Boys is a picture that is going to sit with me for a while. I'd be astonished if this got wider recognition beyond the festival crowd, which it's doing really well with, and even, you know, Jeff Bezos's Amazon MGM and Orion behind it. I feel like the aesthetics might be too much for people to overcome when they're watching like the typical nonsense that most people watch on TV or on their phones every day. It's an aesthetically challenging film that puts you literally in someone else's shoes. Instead of being a voyeur of a story about racial injustice and being so simultaneously connected but disconnected, because although films have been made about subject matter like this and have been emotionally resonant in the past, those films are usually told from outside of the person's body. We are watching them and we are following them, and it's still emotionally potent, but we're never in their shoes. In this film, you are forced to be an active participant in what's happening to these characters. We've had filmmakers like Jonathan Demme and Barry Jenkins use first-person POV in select scenes, and Hardcore Henry exists, but the way Ramell Ross uses this technique is so refreshing and unforgettable. Truly unforgettable. Although I do have my gripes with the film that I previously stated, I'm overjoyed that filmmakers are continuing to push the boundaries of cinema in their own personal ways. I can't wait to watch this again because that ending just took the breath out of the audience, and I can't wait to have that feeling again. And I'm giving Nickel Boys an 8 out of 10. Could be a 9 in the future, who knows. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you agree or disagree, tell us in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your friends, do all the things. Check out our Patreon. It's live. We got stuff. We're going to continue to upload stuff as, you know, we keep making bigger videos, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.